Does anyone else have the guilty pleasure of Comedy Central's terribly offensive yet terribly funny cartoon? And I'm not talking about South Park here, but Drawn Together.
Hey, you know what I thought of that show?
Drawn Together had multiple successful seasons and an extreme fan base, so it really puzzles me why it ended so abruptly. And then got a random direct-to-video movie that came 3 years after the TV show ended that no one, not even the creators, really liked that much. Let's talk about what happened to the first animated reality TV series, Drawn Together. To even describe this show is a bit of a task. Okay, so Drawn Together is an American adult animated sitcom from the mid-2000s with a heavy emphasis on parody. The show's premise is a parody of house-based reality TV programs of the time like Big Brother and The Surreal Life, while each character themselves is a parody of a classic cartoon character archetype, such as Captain Hero, the self-serving, stupid, and sinful version of, you guessed it, Superman. But we'll get to the characters in a moment. Additionally, every episode usually introduces a new type of parody, like in episode 2 when they have a Scooby-Doo chase scene, complete with an upbeat song. By the way, a majority of episodes include a musical performance too, so technically the show's a musical. However, by far the most notorious quality of Drawn Together is just how unflinching the humor can be, poking fun at some seriously dark and taboo subject matter. It's basically any word that YouTube is going to pay me to say. So, who is responsible for this uniquely raunchy cartoon? That would be the creating duo Matt Silverstein and David Jeser, who are known for writing together on Third Rock from the Sun, The Man Show, Action, Greg the Bunny, Axe Cop, The Good Family, and The Cleveland Show. Aside from Drawn Together, Matt and Dave created the MTV cartoon DJ and the Fro. It's an office cubicle version of Beavis and Butthead, and I'm not just saying that, they admitted it to me. They also dared me to check it out, so hey, how about 10,000 likes on this video and you'll get another video on DJ and the Fro.
DJ and
The Fro.
They also developed the unforgettable Fox cartoon, Golan the Insatiable. It's pronounced Golan the Insatiable. Silverstein and Jeser shared a lot in common, having both been raised in Jewish families and were New Jersey natives. They lived in different cities growing up, but met when they attended the same college prep school. And their senses of humor gelled so well that they've largely worked together since. In fact, they were reading a script for another project they were working on together when one of them exclaimed in creative frustration, "You know what would be a great idea for a TV show? If we just put a lot of cartoons in a house and filmed it." And you know, bam! Drawn Together. About 2 years later, at least. Yeah, Silverstein and Jeser were writers, not animators, so while they adored this idea, they really had no way to make this concept come to life. That was until they met Jordan Young. This dude Jordan has taken a lot of roles in his time in television, having started as a character layout artist on The Simpsons and The Oblongs. Hey, I got a video on that one. And also been a producer and executive story editor on a bunch of Raising Hope episodes, but most notably as a co-executive producer, consulting producer, and writer on BoJack Horseman, having been nominated for a Writers Guild Award for his episode Fish Out of Water. Oh, that episode is seriously brilliant. Jordan was still fairly fresh in his career when he met Matt and Dave, and he was an animator looking to get into writing, and they were writers looking for an animator, so they cut a deal. Young would be able to help write the script in exchange for creating the characters and helping animate the pitch pilot of the show. So in 2003, Comedy Central agreed to throw them $1,000 to develop a clip to pitch the show's concept. And this clip is actually the original pilot episode that's considered lost media, but in reality it's just a 4-minute sizzle reel. During my interview with Matt Silverstein and Dave Jeser, I actually asked them if they could pitch up that OG pilot. So, you know, I mean, nothing's come of it yet, but fingers crossed. Subscribe if you want to see if they ever send it to me. This pitch hit a home run though, and the creators give all credit to the song that they used. If you're familiar with Drawn Together's pilot, you know the song.
what is this thing in my mouth?
And that was the whole reason network executives spent millions of dollars on Drawn Together. I mean, the song is fire, and I can't say that I have any complaints about some girl-on-girl action, but the animation was just really crude. Like, not what was being made, but like how it was actually being made. It didn't look that good. Then again, this network was producing South Park. The creators wished to emulate the feeling that these characters were already familiar figures to the audience. Thus, they recruited Rough Draft Studios, known for work on Ren and Stimpy, The Simpsons, and Beavis and Butthead, just to name a few.
And score!
A bold yet expensive move that I totally think was worth it. I mean, look at the difference in quality. Due to a tight budget at the time, they had to hire relative nobodies to write and direct, but some of the Drawn Together alumni have actually gone on to be really big names in the industry. Like director Peter Avanzino, who went on to direct for Futurama and Disenchantment, or writer Eric Sommers, who first advanced on to writing for shows like American Dad and Community, to then help write the Lego Batman movie and all the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Another way the characters achieved this feeling of already being established in our mind was by casting veteran voice actors to play most of them. Which, let's go through our eight main characters, and the actors who play them. Princess Clara is the knockoff Disney princess who, instead of being kind, gentle, and a positive role model for young girls, is a racist, homophobic Christian zealot who's led a sheltered, privileged life. She's played by voice acting royalty Tara Strong. Tara Strong is the voice of everybody ever! In the Garden of Eden, when God spoke to Adam and Eve, The voice was probably Tara Strong.
I mean, where I come from, all my servants are black. Or worse.
Princess Claire flips between joining her housemates partake in the debauchery and actively working to stop the debauchery. Foxy Love is the witty, sensual, mystery-solving musician. She's a combination of the Scooby-Doo gang, Josie and the Pussycats, and all African-American stereotypes. Stereotypes aside, she's taken seriously by her friends and is the de facto leader of the group. And Foxy is fantastically cast as Cree Summer.
I never met anybody who don't want to kiss Foxy. Except maybe Papa.
I think this is an all-star cast, but since Foxy is voiced by Cree Summer, we get to hear some of her singing, which is just always a treat for me. Wildor Jebediah Sockbat is a parody of zany, hyperactive children's cartoon characters, but mainly SpongeBob in terms of character design and childish innocence. Although Wildor does encompass those reality-bending abilities that are displayed in Looney Tunes, he's a yellow being with unexplained wings on his head, an explained doorknob in his ass, and dresses like Bill Dauterive. Wildor is voiced by James Arnold Taylor, which is extra hilarious because this dude is Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Titus from Final Fantasy X, and Johnny Whipcracking Test.
Holy crap! The Mad Libber is verbing a bank!
There's Captain Hero, or Captain Leslie Hero if you want his government name. He's hilariously performed by the amazing Jess Harnell, aka Eddie from Ed, and Eddie. We went over this guy a little bit before. The visual style was inspired by superhero comics of Bruce Timm and Max Fleischer. Hero, ironically, is not heroic. He's sociopathic, chauvinistic, idiotic, perverted, hetero-flexible. He frequently exhibits unprovoked violent outbursts and partakes in revolting sex acts. Additionally, Hero probably has the lowest IQ in the house. Alright, 1000% he does. He's often misinterpreting situations and coming to wrong conclusions, which just leads to some of the funniest moments in the show.
Ooh-wee!
Hey, if you're gonna be gay about this, you can't play.
Sorry.
Spanky Ham is a poorly animated, sex-obsessed pig who adores lowbrow humor like farts and poop. He's a parody of the early internet flash animations that more likely than not had cringe-inducing humor. This little piggy is voiced by comedian and radio guy Adam Toyota Corolla of The Adam Carolla Show and The Adam Carolla Project. I wonder what those shows are about. He's also known for co-creating and hosting The Man Show and Crank Anchors. Ooh, weren't those products of their time? Couldn't be made nowadays, as the kids like to say. And I know Corolla is a bit of a divisive figure, but Drawn Together probably wouldn't even exist without him. He agreed to do a voice for Matt and Dave because they had worked for him on Crank Anchors and The Man Show. And only after Corolla got on board did other industry professionals start taking the show more seriously. Xander P. Wifflebottom is a gay version of Link from The Legend of Zelda. He does talk more than the hero of time and is a parody of video game tropes across the board, like having multiple lives or unlocking special moves. Being from an adult show in the mid-2000s, Xander does exemplify what could be referred to as stereotypical homosexual tendencies. He's more emotional than the other guys in the house and is rather effeminate. While I say that, I will give the show props for having Xander be one of the most realistic characters.
You're gay?
Maybe? Oh, but don't worry, I'm still on a never-ending quest to save you.
He's easily one of the most normal and non-threatening of the cast, but the actor who portrays Xander, Jack Plotnick, consistently delivers an excellently authentic performance. That authenticity spawns from Plotnick actually being gay himself, so he wasn't coming in to just play a character, but portray someone that he represents. And it's disappointing casting directors haven't taken notice of this, because it doesn't seem like he's gotten a lot of voiceover work since. Oh shit, he was the pocket elf from Wizards of Waverly Place!
I don't want any of your chocolate.
Oh, you will, baby. You're gonna love it.
Toot Bronstein is a parody of the black and white sex symbol Betty Boop. Betty Boop she is not. Toot is a self-absorbed, abrasive alcoholic. They write her as the fat character, but low-key's the kind of body type that I prefer. Nice and curvy. Until they cut to one of those gross-ups of Toot. Never mind, never mind. She's dished the fat jokes, the ugly jokes, the old jokes. At least she's a bitch, so you don't feel bad.
You think what happened last night was magical? I mean, maybe it would be magical if you were violated by a magician.
And another voice provided by the bad bitch, Tara Strong. The last of the housemates is Ling Ling, another video game parody, but this time a bloodthirsty Pikachu. There are captions whenever Ling Ling talks because he does not speak English.
Lingling kaya sa katabay, lingling kaya sa da.
Fun fact, he does not actually speak any real language though, since it's all just made up gibberish by the voice actor, Abby Di Gregorio. And yeah, this character has definitely aged the worst, especially since Abby isn't of Asian descent. And on top of that, most of Ling Ling's punchlines are playing off cheap Asian stereotypes. So it's just like not a good look at all. I know Ling Ling's representation is undoubtedly a product of the time, and I would be more mad about it if I felt like it was actually coming from a place of hate. But I don't think it is. That's why Xander's representation was surprisingly real at times. Like in the first season when he becomes depressed after discovering his homosexuality. There was one moment of wait not played for laughs, which is really something for the show.
All my life I've had one purpose, to be on a never-ending quest to save my girlfriend. But now that I'm gay, I have no purpose. I wish I were dead.
And I do mean that was one singular moment. For instance, all the voice talent have agreed that Drawn Together is a silly production that takes nothing seriously. Anything was the target to be made fun of. That's why you couldn't get mad about one specific joke. They weren't making a statement about anything, they were just trying to make you laugh. Matt mentioned during her interview that when they worked on previous sitcoms, the jokes that in the writer's room would get the biggest laughs wouldn't even end up making it in the shows because it wouldn't get past standards and practices. A chill comedy-friendly company like Comedy Central would let them do about anything they wanted to, just like the South Park guys. With that said, let's go through the episode plots that got greenlit in the first season. Season 1, Episode 1 of Drawn Together premiered on October 27th, 2004 and is titled Hot Tub. Basically, all the characters meet like an actual reality TV show, and drama ensues. But so does making out. This is how Clara learns to overcome racism. Seriously.
Was my father actually a racist bastard? And was I really sounding like him?
And Toot snaps out of the delusion that she's pretty when Xander won't date her. To be fair, he's still in the closet at this point. Episode 2 is Clara's dirty little secret and contains a more focused plot. When the secret gets out that Clara has been cursed with a tentacle monster for her private parts,
You're probably wondering about my octopusoir.
the house helps her fix it. They have her find true love with a Bachelorette parody. Episode 3, Gay Bash, is when Xander uncovers his true orientation, and the house encourages him to embrace it by throwing him a party for coming out, or a gay bash, as they put it. The best part is easily seeing what cameos they inserted at the party scene.
And you're whiny and self-hating and most likely bipolar. You're exactly my type.
The actor for Xander, Jack Plotnick, actually used this publicity as a reason for him to come out himself, since he was still in the closet at this time. Just another fun story I got to learn from my interview with the creators.
He was out in his personal life, and we did an episode, what was it, episode 3? Where Xander finally came out of the closet, and I think he used that as a time to come out to the press. Wow.
Episode 4, Requiem for a Reality Show, strongly uses the reality show parody trope by having the start of the episode be a competition between two teams. For food, though, so the losers starve. This one goes all over the place. Toot gets really large, Spanky kills Clara's woodland friends for food, and Foxy and Hero have a basement fling. It seems scattered, but it's an Eric Sommers episode, so you know it flows well when you watch it.
I'm a superhero, Missy, and I don't check myself. Not for you, not for ticks, and not for melanoma.
Episode 5, The Other Cousin. Oh, yikes! So this is the one I was worried about even touching. So Princess Clara gets a visit from her cousin who has a learning disability.
She, only quotes reviews from the movie I Am Sam.
Yeah, this is season 1, y'all. Well, Captain Hero is infatuated by Clara's cousin and works to seduce her. The cousin is voiced by Sarah Silverman.
I Am Sam is a well-written and exceptionally well-acted tearjerker.
The B-plot is that Ling Ling produces a hallucinogenic drug when he's depressed, because, you know, drugs! And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that one. There's a reason this show's a guilty pleasure, though. Episode 6, Dirty Pranking Number 2, is my favorite from the first season. Clara and Spanky end up in a romantic relationship, bonding over pranking the pizza delivery man by taking a dookie on the pizza and then saying,
We got a little problem. You see, I don't remember ordering a pizza with sausage!
The secondary storyline is also significant and funny, with Xander attempting to hang out with Captain Hero, who keeps having to cancel due to his heroic duties. Jimmy Kimmel voices Clara's dad, the king, here too. If you want to hear why the song I'm Having the Time of My Life is only on the broadcast version of the episode, but not on the DVD cut, then be sure to watch the full interview I did with the creators.
So in any repeat viewing that we wrote a parody song about how the original song would have been there, but Bill Medley saw it and made us take it down.
On to the final episode of the season. Yep, just 7 episodes. This thing is pricey to create. The one where there's a big twist. That's the meta title, by the way, not just my lazy description. This episode sees the house compete in a parody of The Apprentice, Trump spoof included. You know they must have been proud of themselves for this one, since it was 10 years before orange body, yellow hair would even think about running for office. This is the one where there is a big twist, and the big twist at the end is the reveal that the true mastermind behind the show is
The Jew producer.
The gang then blows up the house and ends up on a deserted island, setting up a cliffhanger for the episode to demand more. And demand more did they. Not only did Drawn Together stand out on Comedy Central for its overall quality, but it also had a time slot airing back-to-back with South Park. They pushed similar comedic boundaries, so the audiences resonated with that. With the South Park and Drawn Together combo pulling in such high ratings, Comedy Central was very quick to order a second season. And they even upped the order to 15 episodes. Drawn Together was really shaping up to be a network darling. So how the f*** does success lead to it being canceled? Drawn Together was growing bigger and bolder with the follow-up season. They brought on more talented crew members like Chuck Sheets, who directed the Recess movie, as well as a bunch of the Recess TV series, and Rich Moore, who went on to direct Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia. The first episode he's attached to is especially hilarious. I don't want to spoil it yet, but let's just say it has a killer VeggieTales parody. The first of season 2, the one wherein there's a big twist, part 2, continues from the helicopter crash on the island. For a little bit, then it's all about this new housemate that's a strawberry shortcake clone, but she's of a consensual age.
More like like 18, silly Willy. I just taste 8.
Did Dan Schneider make her? Foxy, being the investigator, discovers that this tart has a dark secret of her kind genociding the entire sock bat race. Don't worry, Toot eats her though. Get it? Cause she's fat. Episode 2 of this season is Foxy versus the Board of Education, which is literally a wooden board. A great pun and a fabulous parody of those Schoolhouse Rock videos. Foxy tries to get her detective license, but discovers a conspiracy to keep black people down run by the Board of Education.
Being the genius that I am, I combine 2 time-honored American methods of achieving wealth. Selling stupid stuff to suckers and exploiting the black man.
Xander and Spanky also try to get gay married, as they so eloquently put it, for the insurance purposes, and Clara tries to thwart them. A lot of social commentary with this one, and well done at that. It's funny and it doesn't beat you over the head. Episode 3, Little Orphan Hero, gives us Captain Hero's origin story, and God, it's hilarious. After finding out his supposedly destroyed home planet isn't destroyed, he gets in contact with his parents. They reveal to him that he was sent to Earth as an abortion since he was predicted to be the lamest superhero ever.
You had me aborted? I hate you, Mommy. I hate you, Pop Pop. I wish I were never born.
Oh, baby, I know the feeling.
The emotionally unstable hero then proves them wrong by destroying his home planet. Oh yeah, and the other housemates run a Go Night Night Forever hotline. Season 2, Episode 4, Captain Hero's Marriage Pact, sees Hero's old girlfriend, unusually flexible girl, putting on the marriage pressure. And after Foxy's old bandmates die in an accident, Foxy does what any pop star would do and writes a hit song about it. And another banger, I must say.
Crash and die!
Season 2, Episode 5, Clum Babies, sees Waldor learning how to masturbate. And it turns out that his sperm produces clum babies, which have fantastical healing abilities, which Clara, as a Christian, has an issue with. So she gets the Veggie Fables involved.
God is watching everything you do, and he thinks you're a nasty, naughty, nympho slut.
Ling Ling also falls in love, but that plot really doesn't hold a candle to this one. This was the one the Zootopia guy wrote too. Episode 6, Ghostesses in the Slot Machine, has Captain Hero competing in fixed fights with Spanky to make money, while Foxy and Clara compete for Clara's father's love by stripping. Yeah, it's gross, but this show is absurd, okay? You're not supposed to take it seriously. I mean, Xander wins in the end anyway.
Father? Sugar daddy?
Not now, babies. Daddy's enjoying his ballet.
The 7th episode, Super Nanny, is a parody of Super Nanny, with Super Nanny coming into the house to control Hero, who's essentially a superpowered toddler.
Just maybe if I play along, eat my veggies, go to bed on time, and stop hunting male prostitutes with a crossbow, I will render Super Nanny powerless.
Meanwhile, Ling Ling sells out his Asian heritage by getting an eye adjustment. Oh god, and you know what kind of jokes this episode was littered with? Super Nanny is going to take over the world with her army of mind-controlled children, though. In Season 2, Episode 8, Term of Endearment, Captain Hero's constant use of his X-ray vision on Foxy ends up transforming her into a minstrel caricature of herself. The kind that you can only see in that banned Looney Tunes DVD. You know what I mean? This leads to not only Hero giving up his powers and a majority of his mobility by forcing himself into a blowy chair, but additionally, Foxy is taken away to where all out-of-date banned cartoons go.
Soon I will eradicate every offensive cartoon in the universe until it's the happiest place on Earth.
In Episode 9, Captain Girl, Captain Hero finds out that his old crime-fighting partner, Captain Girl, has died at the hand of what is honestly one of my favorite character concepts ever, the Mad Libber. You know, instead of the Riddler leaving riddles, this guy leaves Mad Libs for you to correctly fill in. And just like all of us when we were kids, the Drawn Together house just put in penis for every word.
I, the evil Mad Libber, viciously penised Captain Girl for getting too penis to my ingenious penis.
Waldor attempts to be Hero's new sidekick, though. B-plot sees Toot neglecting a baby from Nicaragua that Xander and Clara give her to teach her responsibility. She never even names it, they just call it baby the whole time. Episode 10, A Tale of Two Cows, is something about Waldor bringing home a live-action cow. I can't recall a ton of the main plot, but the side plot sees Toot trying to look cool at her Camp Really Fat David reunion by having Xander act as her date. Season 2, Episode 11 is Xander and Tim sitting in a tree, in which Xander falls in love with Tim Thomerson, who appears to be Captain Hero's alter ego. But the actual hero doesn't approve of this relationship.
Oh, look at me. I'm a big dumb superhero who's big and dumb. Now I'm fondling a girl. Oopsie, she's dead.
Tim does just look like Hero wearing specs, but we're actually shown in a later episode that these are different characters. Also, after reading a negative review about Drawn Together in Entertainment Weekly, the rest of the house loses it, especially Spanky Ham, who quits the show to return to a normal life and be a police negotiator negotiator. In episode 12, The Lemon AIDS Walk, Captain Hero uses steroids to win an AIDS walk. Quick side tangent, now that I'm reading all these storylines back to back like this, the writers really did instinctually use Hero a lot. I mention this because it was a complaint I noticed from other critics about the show, but I get why the writers did this. He's fun to write for. He has the capability to literally do anything, so the possibilities are endless. And his stupidity paired with his immense power makes it all the funnier when he's thwarted by the most mundane things like Super Nanny or fast-walking grannies. He ends up beating those old bags, though, with a little steroid help thanks to Popeye.
I did it, Popeye. I did it for you! Who the hell is that asshole?
Billy West makes a voice cameo here too, straight up as Stimpy.
Hey, can we get this game going already?
And Alex Borstein shows up as Lois too. Kinda, her lower half. It's obviously Peter and Lois from Family Guy. Odd reference, but cool. Waldor also goes to mall jail for stealing candy. And that just plays out like a Lifetime movie. Episode 13, a very special, drawn together after school special, is where Xander roleplays trying to come out as gay to his parents, with Captain Hero playing his mom and Toot playing his dad.
I don't have time for this nonsense. I have a casserole in the oven.
That's just it, Mom. There was always a casserole in the oven. You never had time for me.
Then Xander starts to get prostitutionalized by Spanky. This episode is ridiculous because Hero and Toot never end role-playing as his parents. A pretty stupid and silly one, but in a good way. Episode 14, Alzheimer's That Ends Well, is the one where Toot is sent to a nursing home when the others believe that she has Alzheimer's. It turns out that the other old people in the facility are just faking it though, giving us an Alzheimer's musical number.
I have an even better idea.
And Claire goes through an extreme vagina makeover to get rid of her octopussoir. The last and 15th episode ends off season 2 with a clip show presented by the Jew producer. I'm positive this was done in an effort to save time and money, yet the concept still fits in line with parodying reality TV recap episodes, so I wasn't mad. That and some creative pop-up text box gags too, but this still does end up being the least interesting episode of the season due to it being mostly recapping.
We'll see some more stuff that you've already seen. But before we cut to commercial, let's watch as Captain Hero loses his virginity.
One lazier final episode isn't the reason that Comedy Central would nix Drawn Together altogether, though. That reason was much less preventable. You see, around the time that Drawn Together was greenlit, Comedy Central had recently been purchased by Viacom, meaning the executives up top were shifting and the entire company was adjusting. Let's just say the adjustments weren't smooth peanut butter. And on December 7th, 2005, the South Park episode Bloody Mary aired, in which it depicts the miracle of the statue of Mary bleeding out of its ass. And the air date of the episode matters because it was the eve of the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, which apparently is a Catholic observation related specifically to the Virgin Mary, and not the Elden Ring DLC like I first thought. Essentially, this pissed off the Catholic Church, and you know how butthurt they can get. And make little boys, if you know what I'm saying. Don't be mad at me, okay? They did it, not me. So the Catholic League, seriously, this isn't Elden Ring, demanded an apology. And as it so happened, one of the Viacom board members was a practicing Catholic. He shot a complaint up to the CEO of Viacom, and it must have worked because later in that year when they were airing every episode of that season of South Park, Bloody Mary was left out. I can give you some closure about this drama though, since the episode would return to broadcast mid-2006. However, this whole incident spiraled massive changes behind the scenes. The Viacom board was nervous as to what kind of content the network they had just purchased was producing. You think that would be something that you'd look up before making such a big purchase of this magnitude, but I'm just some schlub reviewing cartoons on the internet. The executive board then went on a witch hunt for anything that pushed boundaries too much, which this is Comedy Central we're talking about, so everyone in the CC building was collectively shitting their khakis. I mean, that would be like buying the Food Network and then be like, yo, what's all this cooking? Why is everyone making food and stuff? The managers of Comedy Central were asked by Viacom to put up a compilation of the most inappropriate content for them to review. The Comedy Central guys were in a bind. South Park was their most profitable show, but it was also their most risque show. It was surely not going to pass the review from Viacom, especially after the Bloody Mary thing. If only there was a scapegoat that we could put up instead that would quench the executives' thirst for gutting some inappropriate content. Oh wait, that's why I'm making this video. The executives weren't about to throw their golden goose under the bus, so the clips they lined up for review were mostly from Drawn Together. And old business people obviously understood that kind of comedy, just their main demographic.
The clip reel of inappropriate footage was all of our show.
It was like a 2-hour clip reel of our show.
All the things we were told not to do.
This review put a permanent sour taste in the executive's mouth regarding Drawn Together, which was the ultimate start of DT's decline. After this, the executives would stop airing Drawn Together next to South Park, which meant not only losing a primetime showcase spot, but I mean you also lost the South Park audience that was hanging around to watch Drawn Together. You know, two similar shows! So as Drawn Together started getting pushed into a worse time slot, it got worse ratings. Those These worse ratings would also lead to less advertisers on the show. And if the YouTube adpocalypse has taught us anything, advertisers mean a lot. As you can see, the deck was being stacked against Drawn Together, so they didn't really have much of a chance. To be fair, the third season was also seen as one of the lowest seasons by the fans and critics, so maybe the executives were justified? We'll go through the episodes for season 3, but I do think they suffered a little bit from flanderization. And I love the guys, but Matt and Dave just seemed complacent when working on that third season. Heck, they admitted on the DVD commentary that they bought an Xbox during that season, and they spent most of their time playing Xbox.
3 different offices all wired together for Halo. It did become a bit of an obsession.
Yo, the 360 was dope. So let's check out these episodes for season 3 and see if the fans and critics are right in saying that the show had gone downhill. Season 3, Freaks and Greeks, starts with Captain Hero assuming that the new Greek family that just moved in across the street must be a Greek fraternity. It's not, but that doesn't stop him from not understanding that. So he makes his own competing fraternity with Woldor and Xander as pledges. B-plot is Ling Ling's father falls head over heels for Toot to Ling Ling's dismay, while Toot has fun using him as a sugar daddy.
Will you be my big brother? Party foul! Dead arm!
Episode 2, Woldor Sockbat's Giggle Wiggle Funny Tickle Non-Traditional Progressive Multicultural Roundtable sees Woldor starting up a children's TV show. Clara doesn't like it due to its teaching of acceptance and inclusivity.
Acceptance and tolerance? Why, that's a breeding ground for homosexuality!
Which leads to an ultra-hetero Terminator coming back to stop Woldor's show from creating a gay future. This alpha dude bro Terminator obviously becomes good friends with Hero. Really, really good friends. Meanwhile, Toot is searching for the mythical Wienermobile. Does the Wienermobile exist? Watch the episode to find out. Seriously, just watch this episode, it's hilarious. This episode is aged amazingly, unfortunately. Top tier for the season and the show for me. No surprise to hear Eric Summers wrote this one too. Episode 3, Spelling Applebee's, has Foxy competing in spelling bees while Hero falls in love with Clara in a simp sort of fashion. He's able to please her after he discovers her fetish for car crashes. Spelling Applebee's was honestly rather one-note and forgettable, especially after following up Woldor Sockbat's Giggle Wiggle the last episode.
What, you're not having fun?
You're making out with our waiter!
Shh, don't be mean to him or he'll spit in our food!
In the 4th episode of season 3, The Unrestrainable Trainable, Captain Hero finds out that the special giant is actually his son? And the mother is, his sister? They have to figure out co-parenting. The B-plot is Clara in a cycle of keeping Woldor sick so she can be praised for taking care of him. The main plot concept is so cringe-inducing, and in my opinion, the jokes don't land strong enough to justify this as more than shock humor. Oh, but this Bill Cosby joke they wrote is unbelievable.
You see, man, without the pudding, I'm just another unemployed sexual predator.
How did they call that? Episode 5, NRA Ray, sees Captain Hero becoming a Texas governor, a gun fanatic.
Just holding that gun made me feel so safe.
And the secondary plot is about Foxy's grandson, Ray, who is hiding in the walls of the house, falling in love for Toot and acting as her secret admirer. I also forgot this one existed when I came back to writing the script, so it must not be the strongest.
You're never going to be happy until you have a dream that has depth and importance, like having beautiful hair like mine.
The 6th episode, Mexa Can't Buy Me Love, or Captain Hero and the Cool Kids, has Ling Ling becoming a cockfighting champion. Like he is fighting the cocks in Mexico. This storyline runs rampant with lowbrow Mexican stereotype jokes, so it was only appropriate that the King of Mexico be voiced by the walking perpetuation of Mexican stereotypes, Carlos Mencia. Or should I say Ned Holness?
Oh, these country sucks.
The goofy B-plot saves it though with Captain Hero trying to impress the cool kids of the house, which are apparently Spanky, Xander, and Foxy. It's an odd and out-of-character plot, but it made me laugh. Just don't have to sit through the other plot. Episodes 7 and 8 are a two-parter called Lost in the Parking Space, part 1 and 2. All the housemates aside from Clara decide to go to the mall, but all goes awry when they end up getting trapped in their own van. Even though Hero could use his super strength to get them all out of there, and why am I trying to talk logic to Captain Hero? This storyline drags for me. It is a two-parter, so... And the whole thing ends up just being overshadowed by the ending of the second half with the Hot Topic scenes.
The King of the Hill boredom helmet. Oh, this is almost as boring as the show itself.
I caught this episode as a kid and just remember the lampooning of Hot Topic being spot on. I felt like any employee from that store in the mid-2000s would torture me for fun. The B-plot is about Clara thinking that the rapture has occurred and she's been abandoned. So she takes on a life of sitting and doing the bidding of Satan, who she believes is this mailman. Yeah, I just really don't think these plots deserve to be split across 2 episodes. The next episode is Charlotte's Web of Lies. After a night of playing the Drawn Together drinking game, hilariously meta, Spanky Ham ends up getting with Charlotte, the spider from that book you read in 1st grade.
You were some pig last night.
And this spider is clingy. Additionally, a drunken hero runs down a homeless man who turns out to be his arch nemesis, Scroto. Mad Liver Scroto, I love the villains. This guy's whole existence is just trying to get Captain Hero to wash his balls.
He just tricks superheroes into washing his balls?
Not all superheroes, just me.
What a strange, strange villain.
With a rare C-plot, Ling Ling auditions for the Drawn Together musical. A solid and fast-paced episode. Episode 10, Breakfast Food Killers, is a lot more contained than the previous, with the main plot seeing Waldor becoming the mascot for an evil cereal corporation. On the side, Toot and Foxy work to find all 5 UPCs in order to stop the child slavery ring the cereal company is leading.
Send in all 5 UPC symbols and receive the secret mystery prize. No purchase necessary, void but prohibited. Free housebreaking wee-wee pads with each purchase.
Episode 11 is a clear standout with Drawn Together babies. It's exactly what it sounds like, a Drawn Together episode if they were all babies. A nice parody on things like Muppet Babies or Baby Looney Tunes. The actual plot is that the housemates end up killing their babysitter and have to hide it from Captain Hero, who is a big tattletale. The best part about the episode is it's not simply a gimmick, but brilliantly utilizes this parody as a vehicle to show how each character became who they are today.
And that is how Foxy learned that them ain't your Funyuns. Them's Foxy's Funyuns.
Like Hero's love of necrophilia, or how Waldor became whatever the hell he is now. There is a Hitchcock level of suspense throughout the episode when you realize that this is Waldor, and something will eventually occur to have him not be that. Another top tier episode and a home run from Eric Summers. The summers be hot! Episode 12, Nipple Ring Ring Goes to Foster Care, has Ling Ling fostered out to Foxy's father, aka Uncle Ben of Uncle Ben's Rice. And after his nipple ring is struck by lightning, Captain Hero gains the ability to communicate with his younger self. So of course he takes advantage of this to prank the little dork.
Because when I was that age, some asshole did the same exact thing to me, and I swore someday I would get sweet revenge by doing it to some other 12-year-old loser.
And man, people say time travel plots are always the best, and it even applies here. Next is Foxy and the Gangbang, or Toot Goes to Bollywood, where therapist Waldor incepts the idea into Foxy's mind that Fat Alan and his junkyard pals did to her what Bill Cosby actually did to a bunch of women.
I swear, we never touched an innocent girl in our lives. We ain't Bill Cosby, we're just his creations.
Then Toot is mistaken by an Indian family as a sacred cow and soon becomes King of India. For the 14th and final episode of Season 3, we have the Elimination Special Part 2, The Elimination, or American Idol Parody Clip Show, which follows the pattern of doing a hard reality TV parody, this time with American Idol. The housemates are competing with song performances to stay in the house. These songs aren't incredibly funny themselves, and some are repeated, so this episode definitely suffers more for that reason. But the text gags on screen kept me engaged. Oh, and after hearing Matt and Dave's story on trying to get Brian Dunkelman, the OG American Idol host, the whole Brian Dunkelman part of the episode is so much funnier to watch.
We had a writer on the show who was friends with him. He said, hey, well, we could reach out to him and have him come on the show. He loves to make fun of himself. We're like, oh, well, that's great. So then we wrote a script with Brian Dunkelman, and it was just so vicious. Like, we really made fun of him so much. And the friend was like, oh, no, plus he's going to love it. Brian, he really thinks it's funny that he's not on American Idol anymore. And I guess he didn't find the script funny at all.
Oh.
And then he left a message on the writer's voicemail that was just like, what is this what you think of me? How dare you? I'm not only am I not going to do the voice, if you do this script, I'm going to sue you. And then he finally was like, at the end of the message, he goes, I'm not a Dunkle man, I'm a Dunkle boy. Really? That's a line? He was so upset about that line.
I'm not a Dunkle man. I'm a Dunkle boy.
Yeah, that was, Bradley, that was the big line.
It hurts how accurate the ending joke was, though.
Come on, everybody, let's do the Dunkelman.
Although this wasn't their strongest effort, I do still think that Drawn Together Season 3 was really funny, and for a comedy show, isn't that the most important quality? Sure, the critics may have had more gripes, but I don't think the casual fan minded or really thought about it that deeply. I mean, sure, the episodes are less focused, and some worked and some didn't, but that was no reason to take the show and just shoot it out back. The slight decline in quality was just another factor that the executives could use to justify their choice in canceling it. Simultaneously as Drawn Together was having their ratings skyrocket, and the show was being lauded as the most watched on college campuses, the staff of the show was vacating their offices. There was never an official day that Drawn Together was canceled. Matt and Dave questioned the Comedy Central representative they corresponded with if the program was canceled, and she said that she would find out and get back with them. But like Danny Phantom, she'd be going ghost and never returning that call.
We want to do season 4 of Drawn Together. Please don't make us leave the show. She said, I will call you back right tomorrow. I will talk to the head of the network. I will get back to you. We can't let this happen. We never heard from her again.
The silence was a red flag for the men, and Matt and Dave couldn't be left waiting forever, which is why they ended up signing a deal with Fox and officially stepping away from CC. Many of the Drawn Together staff, and even office furniture, was transferred over to be used on the new animated comedy that was replacing Drawn Together, Lil Bush. I know I was entirely too young when I watched a lot of these adult cartoons, but a cartoon whose premise alone is rooted in politics didn't interest me. At least we'll always have these Drawn Together DVDs, and these things are a wealth of extra material. These DVDs are awesome. First off, they include every episode of Drawn Together uncensored. If you watched Comedy Central back in the mid-2000s, you know they loved their uncensored content. Funny enough, apparently some of the censored moments from the show were never originally animated. They were just created censored. So in making the DVDs, the animation staff had to go back and add the dirty bits.
There's no point in drawing it because we were just gonna blur it anyway. When it was coming out on DVD, we were doing an uncensored version, so we had to send it back to the animators.
That must have been a fun day at work. You also get any deleted scenes that got left on the cutting room floor. Other additions you get access to are staff interviews and all the TV promos if you want to see that. But the real treats for me were the commentary epissodes. Dave and Matt, along with various voice actors and staff, talk over select episodes, sharing production information, hilarious opinions, and some wild stories. There's even a moment when Tara Strong flashes the group giving commentary. It's not like you can see it, but you can hear it.
Tara Strong just flashed us for this.
Wow. We just saw Clara's boobies. Now, I forgot what I was going to say.
And that's the closest some of us will ever get to boobs. Sometimes the creators get a little too drunk and ramble on, but I still liked it, even if Tara Strong fell asleep. They really made the commentaries interesting. And they even did a commentary on one of their own commentaries.
We thought the commentary was so fantastic for this episode that we felt it required us to comment on the commentary.
Oh, I gotta ask Matt and Dave if we can do a commentary on the commentary of the commentary. There we go. Aside from the DVDs, there isn't a wide array of Drawn Together merch. You could get the Drawn Together soundtrack on CD if you really want to liven up the family holiday party. There were shirts, of course, as they were referenced in the Hot Topic episode, but they're hard to come by nowadays. Oh yeah, but by the way, this shirt I'm rocking is not an officially licensed shirt. Those shirts actually are rocking that rare vintage price tag that I cannot afford. But yeah, that's about it for everything Drawn Together. Do I have to talk about the movie? Yeah, there was the Drawn Together movie. The Drawn Together movie, the movie as it was titled. I didn't even know this thing existed before I made this video, honestly. But maybe I wish I was back in that timeline. Drawn Together may have been canceled as a TV show, but it was revived as a film 4 years after the final episode aired. Not a good sign. And Comedy Central, aware that Drawn Together was a show that cost a pretty penny to make, decided to give them a fraction of the budget they were used to. This meant that they couldn't recruit the animation team that they had been using throughout the show's run, thus they had to go with 6 Point Harness, the original animation studio for Drawn Together. The one that made the pilot clip. They didn't do a horrible job. Hell, they probably did the best they could do. The problem was the best they could do was with Adobe Flash. This left every character having to share animation styles as opposed to the vast differences they had before. It's not as noticeable with like Spanky or Foxy, but Clara and Xander were too. I just couldn't help feeling the Uncanny Valley disturbingness. I think I used Uncanny Valley right there. I don't know, they look weird. The animation wasn't the only thing off point here. The writing wasn't as sharp or fresh. There was much more gore and shock rather than clever punchlines. I'm not saying all the jokes fell entirely flat, but this felt try-hard for a comedy film. And the characters' personalities were flanderized even worse. The writing was so bad that not even Seth MacFarlane voicing the robot, intelligent, smart robot animation Eraser Lady, or Israel as it was put, could save it. Yeah, there's a running gag involving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, by the way. Oh boy, do they know how to pick their subject matter.
I mean, isn't it hard to destroy innocent people that have never wronged you?
Everyone's wrong, Israel!
Really? Wow. If that's the way you feel, maybe we'd all be better off if you didn't exist.
Oddly enough, I thought this was actually one of the better parts of the movie. But I think I actually like this picture more than the usual Drawn Together fan even. It's probably because I didn't watch it when it came out, but well after the hype. And I like the movie for its larger plot points, but not so much for the dialogue and jokes, if that makes sense. I'm not going to cover the entire movie right now, but if you want a future video on it, then be hitting the like button for me. The main point of the movie is that the Drawn Together show and cast are being erased, because they aren't like the better comedy TV shows that make a point with some social commentary. This journey ends up taking them to Make a Point Land, which is a clear South Park parody, and this film basically has the message that it's okay if comedies don't always have a message, because they're just meant to make you laugh, which is some genius irony. However, what surprised me by this lesson is Drawn Together's acting like Drawn Together never made any social commentary of its own. Yeah, they totally did, and they even are right now. Granted, it wasn't as heavy-handed as, say, South Park, but remnants were still there. I digress though. This movie isn't held in high regard for good reason. Even the creators can admit they rushed it out for a paycheck.
Yeah, that was a bad call. The movie was a bad call. We rushed it. We did it with a different animation company. It was just, it was like a desperate attempt to try to get the show back, and it failed.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't get some enjoyment out of watching Drawn Together, the movie. So if you haven't seen it, I would actually recommend checking out the film if you're a diehard fan like me. Join me living in this timeline.
Put on your 3D glasses now. 3D glasses not included.
Sadly, the failure of this reboot film vaporized any chance that Matt and Dave had at returning to CC. While I've mentioned how a lot of the show staff went on to have flourishing careers, the two brains behind the show actually struggled to regain their limelight. After the movie flopped, Dave Jeser and Matt Silverstein continued to collaborate as executive producers on many productions, such as High School USA, Stonequackers, and Gollin the Insatiable, and even as current as this year for Housebroken in the Prank Panel. Matt has also been producing the creatively named talk show The Talk as well. In terms of creation, they co-wrote a failed pilot called Coffin Dodgers in 2013, and co-wrote the screenplay for Accidental Love in 2015, but that's about it. Hey, it's not like they haven't tried getting Drawn Together revived, though. Nothing seems to have really taken off for the creators as much as Drawn Together did, and we live in a time where shows like Clone High are being revived, so I still have a sliver of hope that we could see more Drawn Together coming out, and apparently that sliver of hope is kept alive thanks to Latin America. When I first got buzz and my audience going for Drawn Together, I noticed a lot of love from the Latin American community. Drawn Together was surprisingly popular there, and I only say surprisingly because it's not like they had the greatest depiction of other cultures throughout the show, but hey, that means they understood it was simply jokes. A bueno sense of humor. And to any Latin American fans, Matt and Dave are very aware of y'all and appreciate you big time.
In the new reboot pilot, in a nod to our Latin American fans, Princess Clara, she's gotten engaged to a Latin American prince who's called Prince Pinata.
I found that fandom to be quite interesting as well because it proves that Drawn Together can be made nowadays. When you aren't trying to make drastic social critiques on American culture, the comedy is able to translate. Not only that, but right now comedy is starting to see a rise in popularity of creators willing to say what others are not. And Drawn Together sure falls into that category. Even when they do go political, they maintain the South Park rule of not picking a side. They take jabs at everybody. Even in the movie, with a running gag about something as inflammatory as Israel and Palestine, they're throwing roasts back and forth. In fact, Matt and Dave vehemently disagree on this subject themselves, but they could still put their personal feelings aside and write jokes about it as partners because they knew that's all that they were, jokes. I think a wildly goofy and twistedly raunchy animated comedy is just the sort of thing we need right now. If only we had one. Oh. What's this email I got? Look, it's a copy of the script for the Drawn Together Season 4 pilot. It's almost like I scripted it in this video. That's right, Dave and Matt actually sent me a copy of their pilot script for Drawn Together Season 4. And anyone looking back on the show and commenting, the show couldn't have possibly been made nowadays. The social satire here has been made current while still maintaining the carefree raunchiness from the original, such as Princess Clara finding herself in a marriage with the new Mexican Prince Pinata,
sort of as an homage to Coco and Encanto,
purely to get the interracial relationship credit from viewers and producers. Captain Hero is also trying to get into the MCU by using this homeless guy who he thinks is an alternate dimension hero. What surprised me the most though was their handling of Ling Ling actually. I didn't know how you'd redeem this character, but like the Drake and Josh opening theme song, they found a way. The opening of the episode reintroduces every character with what they've been doing since the show ended, and the final one is Ling Ling. But before he can utter a single word in the confessional, he's knocked out and thrown into a dungeon with his mouth shut, along with Apu from The Simpsons, Cleveland from Family Guy, and as they write it, the lesser-known Missy from Big Mouth, which are all characters that have had their voice actors changed to better fit the actual demographic of the character.
All their voices are like zippered shut and padlocked.
And they all break out trying to get their voices back.
None of these characters even say a word, they just make muffled cadences of their lines, with subtitles, just like Ling Ling already was. Brilliant! By the end of the episode, they leave it ambiguous as if they'll have Ling Ling speak again, probably to allow the show buyers to decide, but they do make an argument that the white girl voice actors could really use the paycheck. What a fun and insane way to handle that. That's all I want to spoil the script right now. Just kidding, they also added a parody of Mikasa from Attack on Titan in the last scene. Please, weeaboos, bring back Drawn Together! But I pray to Lord Xenu that we can one day see this thing come to life, and by the original animation crew. The script for the Season 4 revival isn't entirely perfect, but the spirit of the original show is there, and that's why you hire other writers to help punch up the jokes. What the script does show, though, is Drawn Together adapting and acknowledging the current social issues while still showing that it's not going to hold any punches. Personally, I don't think we should be afraid to be wrong occasionally in comedy and push boundaries, because when you take risks and it hits way harder and leaves a more significant impact on the audience. And that's what I love about comedy, how it connects us all by shining a light on our silly flaws. And hey, if anyone ever goes too far across that boundary, we can always call them out. We're all human and we all have the capacity to be made fun of, but we also have the ability to laugh at others being made fun of too. I know Drawn Together isn't the most appropriate show to say that I'm a proud fan of, but it holds a place deep in my nostalgic little heart. I don't know if it was the fascinating blend of animation techniques, perhaps it was the rapid-fire inclusion of punchlines and sight gags, or maybe the creatively raunchy way it parodied TV as an entirety, or maybe I just adore the show when it's all drawn together. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. Please drop a like if you made it this far. It means a lot, it'll help a lot. Sorry it took me a million years to get this thing out. I've just had life and everything else coming at me, but I've got more videos planned, so please subscribe if you want to keep up with them. China, Illinois, Shin-Chan, I'm going to make fun of the Mario movie here. Let me know in the comments, would you like to see in Drawn Together Season 4? Apparently Matt and Dave are kind of connected to me, so who knows, maybe they'll be reading the comments. And don't forget to check out my full interview with the Drawn Together creators, Matt Silverstein and Dave Jeser. It's going to be here on this channel as well. And that's it. All right, thanks for watching. I hope we can all be drawn together in another video. Peace!